Hello, and welcome to Healthcare Finance Unit 4. In this unit, we will be discussing healthcare planning and budgeting. The top 4 learning objectives for Unit 4 are as follows. Describe the overall planning process and the key components of the financial plan. Explain how variance analysis is used in the budgeting process. Describe the revenue cycle and its importance to healthcare managers. And understand how managers monitor and control operations. Now remember, these are the top 4 learning objectives which we will focus on this week. Other learning objectives which you are responsible for understanding can be found within the classroom page. Describe the overall planning process and the key components of the financial plan. The core of any organization's planning process is their strategic plan. A strategic plan contains the organization's mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives. Strategic plans can sometimes be dusty books on a shelf, but ideally they are a document that is regularly referenced and widely shared throughout the organization. So how does an organization execute a strategic plan? And what does this have to do with finance? An operating plan is considered to be the working document that aids in executing the mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives set forth in the more formal strategic plan. The operating plan takes a how-to approach, much like a roadmap, and is typically broken down into specific segments relevant to the organization's operational structure. This is where finance comes into play. Elements included in the finance section of an operating plan might include current financial condition analysis, capital investments and financing, financial operations, budgeting and control, future financial condition analysis. Explain how variance analysis is used in the budgeting process. When you create a budget, you obviously want to remain as objective as possible, forecasting realistic projections so you're able to stay on track through the fiscal year. As with any budgeting process, it's important to analyze how finances were handled, and this includes acknowledging any variances between the budgeted amount and the actual amount spent or incurred. According to Kopensky, variance analysis is an examination and interpretation of what has actually happened versus what was expected to happen. So what does variance analysis mean to a healthcare manager? Let's consider the following scenario. Mark is a manager in a hospital's pediatric unit. He is responsible for managing the unit's budget as well as ordering all supplies and making staffing decisions. In his budget at the beginning of the fiscal year, he projected $1,350,000 for salaries. When he conducted his year-end review of the budget, he noticed a variance in the salary section. What actually occurred was he lost one PA and had to rehire at a higher salary range than the previous PA was paid. This variance was evident when he compared the budgeted amounts against the actual year-end figures. Mark also has to report on his budget every year to leadership within the hospital, and so thanks to his knowledge of variance analysis, he'll be able to express this variance in salary in both dollar and percentage terms, explaining the overall impact on the rest of the budget. Describe the revenue cycle and its importance to healthcare managers. Perhaps one of the most important financial elements in a healthcare organization is the revenue cycle. In the U.S., our healthcare system is utilized in a way where care is rendered and payment is collected from a third party at a later date. This gap between the service date and the collection date is absolutely essential to understand and plan for in revenue cycle management. In general terms, the revenue cycle can be broken down into 4 segments: before service activities, at service activities, after service activities, and continuous activities. Even with a stellar healthcare team, issues in revenue cycles can occur. What's important is having the entire team invested in the process and success of the revenue cycle. As a manager, this means creating transparency around the revenue cycle and involving team members in decision-making and troubleshooting processes. Understand how managers monitor and control operations. You may have heard the phrase, "numbers don't lie." Well, this phrase is quite applicable to how healthcare managers utilize metrics to monitor and control operations of a healthcare entity. Depending on the size and structure of the organization, a healthcare manager's role in monitoring and evaluating metrics can vary. In many cases, an organization's metrics are compared to national benchmarks as a way of evaluating the organization's performance in specific categories. For example, a common metric used in hospital systems is average length of stay. Average length of stay is calculated by dividing inpatient days by total discharges. If a hospital's average length of stay is higher than the national average, there is likely room for improvement in a variety of areas. This might include examining the process by which patients are admitted and discharged, how handoffs between care teams are completed, and other factors influencing the inpatient discharge relationship. Conversely, if a hospital's average length of stay is below the national benchmark, the contributing factors should still be examined to ensure consistency and continuous improvement. It's now time to dive in and further explore the topics covered in Unit 4. Remember to complete the following. Watch supplemental videos. Complete assigned and suggested readings. Review discussion and assignment instructions. This concludes the presentation content for Unit 4.